Today I'm going to do a reading vlog. It's going to be kind of like a mini reading vlog. Unfortunately, I couldn't read all day, but now I have some time to read, so I thought I would do a vlog as well. I'm actually getting a head start on my fall reading list, which I do have another video where I talked about the books that I want to read this fall, if you want to check that out. One of the books I'm reading, I am actually reading as a part of a book club for another creator's Patreon. So I'm probably not going to talk too much about that one. But it is Henry in June by Anais Nin. I do plan to read a bit of that today. I might talk a little bit about it. Another book I'm reading right now is Finale by D.T. Max. It is a collection of conversations that a journalist, I believe he's a journalist, had with the composer, lyricist Stephen Sondheim. I'm about 45 pages into this one. And finally, a book that I actually want to start today, or sort of restart today, is Marjorie Barnard's collection of short stories. This is the Persimmon Tree and Other Stories. So I just read some of Henry in June. That is, like I said, the book club book that I'm reading for this month. But just to give you a little idea of what it's about, it is a diary, essentially, written by Anais Nin. Something I love about this is that she writes so beautifully, even though it's all a journal. She sort of writes as if she knows someone might read this, but at the same time, she doesn't hold back from what she's feeling. She wrote this in the 1930s, and the things that she's writing about would have been probably pretty risky for her to talk publicly about at that time. The book follows her and her husband and this other couple, Henry and June. When the story starts, we learn basically that Anais and Hugo, her husband, are in a sort of stagnant relationship, and I think we know that both of them sort of desire something that they aren't getting from the other person. She meets Henry Miller and his wife June. She begins a relationship with both of them, sort of separately, at least for now. It's separately. This book is a really interesting exploration on gender and gender roles, not only just sexuality and gender. We see how she looks at June not only through a feminine gaze, but also a more masculine gaze. When she's with Henry, she feels even more in tune with her femininity. So it's a really interesting dynamic. Because this is a collection of conversations, he writes this in a style that's sort of like dialogue in a play, which I think was most likely intentional given the subject matter being about Stephen Sondheim, and Stephen Sondheim wrote musicals. So fun to read these conversations between him and Sondheim. I'm not that far into it, and I have learned so much about Sondheim that I did not already know. He is so funny. He's so incredibly witty. Sondheim was sort of famously private about his life. From what I've read, he does seem a bit intimidating, not necessarily in like a bad way. Like, he doesn't seem mean or rude. He's just such a genius, and he's so quick-witted. I would feel so intimidated talking to someone like that. I was a little surprised at some of the things he revealed so early on, but it's almost as if he realizes that he may be overshared. I would have loved to have met him myself. Now I might make some dinner and then probably later start reading Marjorie Barnard's short story collection. All right, so I read the first two stories in this book, which were The Arrow of Mistletoe and The Bride Elect. The first story is basically about a husband and a wife, and the husband works in some business. I don't remember. It's like finance. Through most of the story, the narrator is sort of painting the picture that the husband is this, sort of stereotypical businessman, and his wife is his helper. She is quoted as being a well trained debutante. The narrator tells us that people sort of see the husband as someone who can do anything. He has a lot of accomplishments. He has to make this grand gesture at work to impress the important man. That's what he's referred to as. He comes home and he sort of vents to his wife, and she sort of sees this as reflecting poorly on her and their marriage. So when he suggests that they throw a dinner party, she feels a lot of pressure to put on the best party for this important man. And in the end, his coworkers and this important man come to the dinner party and everything is going smoothly. The narrator sort of switches perspectives to the important man, and he's trying to find the flaw in this scheme. Then Marjorie Barnard does this really interesting thing where she leaves us at the very end of the story with this image of the important man looking around the room, trying to find the flaw, and his eyes see the wife, and she looks extremely nervous. Like he can tell she's just sort of internally panicking. As she watches the wait staff at this dinner party bring in this very elaborate, over the top dessert, and then the story ends. We're told that this man, the husband, is incredible. He's just like the definition of like the perfect businessman and husband. The wife is this dainty debutante who does her job as a wife, right? It's a little frustrating that all of the credit will go to the man, to the husband. But really, it was the wife who probably worked hard to create this elaborate party. Through the important man's perspective, we see that that is the flaw. The wife is sort of stressing herself out for the husband, making sure that this party is perfect for him so that everything will go well for him. He will get all of the credit, and then she will no longer feel that there is like this rift in their marriage. The second one, like I said, was called The Bride Elect. This story is about a family living on a farm. The main character in the short story is named Myra. She, I believe, is getting married to Jim. I don't think they're married yet. She's living in this farmhouse, this really nice farmhouse, with Jim, her fiance slash husband, and his family. The only people in his family that really matter to the story are his sister Thea and their dog Laddie. Thea is a widow and she has been living at the house with them, but she is going to leave once they get back from their honeymoon. And this family loves Thea. They really value her. And Myra resents that because Thea doesn't like Myra. She feels like she's not valued. She's seen as sort of weak compared to everyone else, especially compared to Thea. Myra keeps hearing these sounds by the shed all day. Everyone else is sort of brushing her off, saying, oh, it's nothing, it's probably this, it's probably that. And so Myra is really frustrated, and she keeps thinking about getting her suitcase down to leave. She says that her suitcase is too heavy, and if she tries to pull it down herself, she could hurt herself. That is an important detail for later. So Jim goes down to the shed as Myra is sort of admiring the beauty of this farm. Even though the author is sort of describing this farm in such a beautiful way, there is a tension there, and you sort of feel like something really bad is going to happen. And all of a sudden, he comes running back up towards the house, and he has blood all over him. And Myra is freaking out, but he pushes her aside and is calling for Thea, the sister. Thea's already running outside. She was like, I know, I heard it, I'm coming. And they're talking about the dog. Laddie has been in a fight with other dogs and now he's hurt, which was the noise that Myra kept hearing all day. So obviously Myra is upset because she heard this noise all day and no one took her seriously. She tries to pull her trunk down, and Marjorie Barnard does a really cool thing where she is talking about how Jim and Thea are tending to the dog while Myra is pulling down her suitcase. And then all of a sudden, the scene shifts seamlessly into Myra being on the floor and Jim and Thea being over her because she has hurt herself because she's tried to pull down the trunk. Really can't describe it without reading it, but I think that you should read it. It was so seamless, and you know, the parallels between the dog and Myra, and it was so good. I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog. I am a new booktube channel, so obviously I'm going to ask you to please like this video, comment below if you'd like to, and please subscribe. It would mean a lot to me.